Yeah, that's good.
Yes! Game number 1.
Yes!
Zixo on the Quest Warrior versus Lee on the Holy Wrath OTK Paladin. And we get the Korean voices, which is great.
It is great, but
always a treat.
If you don't remember the names of any cards, well, I probably can't carry you on that because I won't know their names either.
So for those of you that don't know how this Holy Wrath Paladin works, the idea is that they completely draw all of the cards in their deck as quickly as they can, and then they'll play Shrivala the Tiger, Baleful Banker it back into the deck so that it's the only card there, and then play Holy Wrath, which will draw the Shrivala the Tiger and deal 25 damage to the opponent's face. So it's not quite an OTK, but it does deal 25 damage, which is significant.
Yeah, and this is a deck that we saw rise, well, a huge spike in its popularity during the Americas week of the winter playoffs, and since then it hasn't completely fallen out ever. And however, we have seen many different variations as to how the deck is built. Some people liked including bouncers to try and create a dual win condition with just the regular horseman from Uther. But it seems like the list from RNG might not necessarily be going for that. Yeah, I don't see any brewmasters in here. It's a little bit more streamlined.
It's good at sort of having a lot of different win conditions. It's good because it's got a lot of healing up. Shrivala the Tiger itself is a very versatile card, whether it's for getting the board back, preventing you from dying, or being used for the OTK, obviously, and it can sort of do all three at once. However, Zixo does have the ability to gain a lot of armor, and if he's able to control the board, then he might just be able to outlast the combo.
It is true, because RNG are not including the bouncers for the horsemen from Uther. They are very much reliant on getting that 25 damage as the OTK, which is hardly ever enough against Odd Warrior.
Okay. Are you able to hear me, Gia? Nope. Okay, we seem to have a slight communication issue between Gia and myself at the moment. I don't think we can hear each other. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and continue watching the game. And Zixo's strategy really does appear to be sort of coming together as this, okay, maybe I'm not too worried about completing the quest. I can outlast the combo potentially. If I take a better look at this Holy Wrath Paladin deck list, see what we've got here. How much damage is this deck capable of doing? So they are running 2 copies of Baleful Banker and 2 copies of Holy Wrath, obviously, along with Shrivala the Tiger. So it should be possible for them to actually deal 50 damage, to use the combo twice. However, Zixo already has 35 health. It's not looking completely outside the realms of possibility that he can get his health total above 50.
Okay. I'm back. Sorry about that. I think that the Googling to find out when the Hearthstone tournament was going to work just wrecked my entire internet. I should not do anything like that ever again.
You should never Google
you're
bridges
right.
again.
The max damage output is theoretically 50 for the Paladin.
Well, it was.
And it was not anymore. So I think this play from Lee is very much indicating that he doesn't think he can take it slow against the Quest Warrior, because 6-0, between the natural armor game and also having 2 shield blocks in the deck, it's going to be really difficult. So I don't exactly know what Leo's win condition is supposed to be at this point. He might have to play just the desperate aggro position that you might sometimes see from, say, a control mage versus the old OTK Paladin, just scraping together 1 attack, 2 attack minions, and hoping to get there with the 25 from the 1 remaining Holy Wrath. Okay, now I can't hear Falk, and I don't know if that's my fault.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I was just checking something.
So yeah, what do you think Lee can do from this point to actually win the game?
Win the game? I guess he has to play as aggressively as possible. Like, he has to somehow manufacture a situation where Shivala the Tiger manages to deal some damage to the face, and a quality consecration allows him to push some damage through to the face. You know, that old 8 mana combo.
Yeah.
Or I guess Pyromancer quality, you know, and then play minions with the other 4 mana.
Theoretically, I could see 2 very slim chances at victory for Lee, which is where, as you mentioned, he plays very aggressively, hopes to maybe stick, a Pyromancer and get continuous 3 damage every turn. The other is to get Wither on curve, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, and then try to stick Horsemen. Of course, you need to stick them because you don't have bouncers, but it's so difficult to do that because the warrior already has quest completed. They're going to be able to not just pressure you, but have consistently a way of removing a horseman without even having minions on board. And even if all of that fails, 6-0 has Brawl and Reckless Flurry. So I just don't see a way that Leo can take this.
Yeah, so because of the 4 horsemen, Zixo can't just tank up out of range. But he already is out of range, right? So now he will just be able to play the Sulfuras at some point and just win the game with it, I'd have thought.
Sure. I mean, he will be conscious that when he changes hero power, it is going to be semi-permanent damage. He still has the shield blocks, though. But I think that he's at high enough of a health total that he could just try to end the game sooner by going for the consistent rag shots.
25 damage, unfortunately for Lee, isn't that much when you're against a warrior that can tank up.
So 6-0 has decided he doesn't want to pull the trigger on Sulfuras just yet, and I think this is a very, very safe play. Oh, okay, never mind. He's going for it.
He's gone for it, and Lee now only has 16 health remaining.
And he could heal with Shivala, but again, that is going to scuff up his semi-win condition.
Right. But then, okay, so let's look at it another way. If he has no way of ever dealing the rest of that damage, then I guess there's no reason to hold the Shivala for that win condition, and instead he has to go all in on the hero card win condition that you described, the Uther.
Mm-hmm. So if you're doing that, he needs to make sure that he can exhaust all of 6-0's minions from hand, because 6-0 will have the mana to keep playing them as well as pressuring with the hero power. And if any of them stick, that means that a horseman will not be sticking. So if that is what Leo's game plan is, he also needs to hold on to his AoE to make sure that he can deal with all the minions individually. But I would put him at very small percent chance of winning this game, like 5% or less.
Unfortunately for Lee, I agree. 6-0 seems to have this one down, and I think he just won the matchup war, I guess, or the pick war for this first game. And I'm sure RNG are already going to be thinking, what do we pick that now counters the Quest Warrior next game?
Yeah, and I think that should be pretty easy choice because they have all 5 decks left. Previously, I thought that they could be maybe cornered by the bans and then forced to bring 3 decks, which gives you less maneuverability. But when you have 5 decks in LHS, you'll almost always have a good counter queue. But of course, it is LHS, so whoever wins the first match will be at a big advantage for the rest of it because LHS tends to go one of 2 ways, either a 3-0 sweep or a 3-2 back and forth victory.
Zigso is just, he's almost ready to just push for lethal at some point because he has both of those Black World Pixies in hand, along with the hero power and the Sulfuras able to hit for another 4 damage. I really don't think this game is going to take much longer, though Zigso does lose the brawl there. Crystal Smith Kangor survives, which means Lee can at least heal a little bit next turn.
That was, I have to say, an unnecessary brawl, but it very much points to Sixo's game plan of trying to just end the game immediately. I don't think he'll necessarily be too punished for it. It seems like he's still in a strong spot. That's how bad RNG Leo's spot was, that Sixo can lose a really, really bad odds situation. Oh, sorry, good odds situation from his part. Still though, Lee, just the 25 damage won't be enough to get him there.
It just seems like an impossible position, doesn't it? Like, he hasn't even drawn Uther of the Ebon Blade yet. It's one of the bottom 2 cards in the deck. Even so, Uther can actually deal, obviously, the damage with the weapon, with the 3 attacks from that. But again, drawing it so late, he's trying to push all of the damage he can, even casting Consecration, just to get that through to the face right now. But it just doesn't look like it's going to be enough.
Okay, he will definitely be able to play Uther next turn though. And with the amount of heal in hand and double timeouts, I don't think RNG Leo will be feeling too pressured by the weapon, the hero power from Sixo, nor by the fatigue, which he will eventually be hitting. But Sixo, you can see that he's been very diligent at keeping the weapon. Like, he had a chance to remove the Crystal Smith Kangor last turn, but he wants to make sure that he has the weapon so that if Uther comes down, Leo will have one less way of sticking a horseman because Sixo will have that weapon to be able to clear the first horseman. And now Sixo, I wouldn't mind just seeing him pull the trigger on one of the pixies.
Nope, he holds back for now.
Okay.
I definitely see the logic there, but looking at Lee's position, he's now in the fatigue game, and he's not going to be living that much longer regardless. Yes, he can heal every turn with this weapon, but the amount of damage that Zixo is going to be pushing every single turn, it is going to be too much.
Yeah.
That being said, Zixo does have 25 health now.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting though. I was saying that Sixo would have to stick a minion in order to deal with the horseman, but he actively chose not to play a minion so that RNG Leo would have no target for his Shrivala, which means that Sixo is trying to win a race here. And he knows that if he had played a minion, it also would be cleared by the weapon from Uther also.
Unfortunately for Zixo, somehow, and I don't know how this has quite happened here, but he's just going to lose now. Because Shrivala, Baleful Banker, Holy Wrath is 25 damage.
You're right. You're right.
And Zixo shakes his head. He doesn't quite understand how this has happened either. But I guess him having to use that Reckless Flurry earlier, losing all of his armor. Look, he clearly realizes he's messed up.
Yeah.
But there you go. Lee has lethal.
Wait, Felt, I went through 3 disconnects on this stream, but this feels like an even bigger disconnection. What's happening right now between what I thought was happening and what actually turned out to be the result. He just had to stay above 25.
Between what we thought was reality and what ended up being reality. And I think it was that reckless flurry. Zixo was just doing whatever he could to deal that damage to the face as quickly as possible. But in doing so, he cast that reckless flurry. He lost all of his armor and threw the game, essentially.
Man, I think that it is going to be a pretty tough talk with Zixo, Hoi, and Surrender at the back there. It seemed like Zixo was in an unlosable position, but now one of his teammates is going to have to pick up a deck and continue the fight. And what we were saying was going to be a strong position for SKT because, you know, winning the first match in LHS is always the big deal. Now, winning, I think, an unfavorable from that spot for RNG puts them at an immense favorite.
Oh, for sure. Zixo, yeah, I mean his team are gonna be good to him. Hoi and Surrender are very supportive, but Zixo has been going through a hard time recently. His performance at DreamHack Winter 2018, in the very first round on stream, he messed up at the end of one of his first games and lost the series as a result. And I know that he wasn't very happy about that. And unfortunately, just a couple of mistakes seem to be creeping through what used to be unshakable armor on Zixo's side. But yeah, it's now up to SKT to find a counter for the Holy Wrath Paladin.
I mean, I have to say, I really think Zixo tunneled at one point there.
Yeah.
On trying to get a faster win condition, you know, actively not playing a minion so that RNG couldn't heal with Shrivala, but instead that allowed Zixo to just get within exact range of the Holy Wrath lethal. Pretty crazy.
I mean, Zixo obviously was so confident that he'd won, he just sort of forgot the consequences of what he was doing. And to be fair, so were we. We'd been sitting there for the last 5 minutes like, yeah, well, you know, RNG are going to be trying to work out what they're going to queue against this deck next. But somehow, you know, Lee played it cool. He played the game. He didn't falter at all. He waited for his opportunity. And to his surprise, it was awarded to him and he took it.
Yeah. I guess it all circles back to that brawl play, which seemed extremely unnecessary.
Yep. I agree.
And
you expected to see Black World Pixie. I also expected to see Black World Pixie. Just Zixo throwing the damage to the face without using his board clears is what he should have been looking at doing there.
Well, in any case, from SKT's perspective, they've got to be thinking about what is best to queue into the Holy Wrath Paladin now. And I was not able to take notes on what decks they have remaining, but one of those... I know that a lot of the anti-control things are out of contention, except for Quest Rogue. They have their aggro decks left, though. Surrender could be choosing... Oh, he has chosen Quest Rogue, it seems like.
Okay.
Which, how do you feel about this matchup?
So it's just a race, isn't it? It's for Lee, it's how quickly can you draw your entire deck, and for Surrender, it's how quickly can I complete the quest and start smacking Lee in the face. Obviously, SKT believe that this is a favored matchup. That's why they picked it. And yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Rogue is in a good spot here.
Yeah. Looking at their remaining classes, I'm not sure if it's because they necessarily believe Quest Rogue is a good matchup, but all the rest of their decks are not in a great position. Their mage is a slow control mage, not gonna against... It's an odd big spell mage with more top end and defensive stuff. They don't run the secret package or anything like that. That's not going to have a good time against Holy Wrath Paladin. This even shaman, which is much weakened now by the loss of Flame Tongue Totem, I also don't think will perform too well against Holy Wrath Paladin. Although I was thinking that the odd Paladin seemed like a pretty strong candidate in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with the equality nerf, it's slightly more difficult for Holy Wrath Paladin to get those board clears against decks like our Paladin, so I'd have seen that as well. But either way, they've decided the Quest Rogue is what they want to go with. They've put Surrender in the driving seat. Now, Surrender can definitely play Quest Rogue. He has been playing Hearthstone throughout Quest Rogue's dominant periods, and he's been playing Quest Rogue very, very well over the last couple years.
For sure. I think that Surrender is one of those players that just has really good fundamentals no matter what deck you put him on. As long as he's had the time to practice, the plays will always make sense. Even if you don't necessarily see it immediately, like his very famous play as Raza Priest at the World Championships, it comes together in the end. So I'd be confident in Surrender, but I wonder if maybe Sixo's, well, we can honestly call it a throw a while ago, has done anything to shake up their team dynamic a little bit.
I don't want to call Zixo the weak link because that's not fair with everything that Zixo's achieved in the past. But it's more the case that Surrender and Hoi are currently stronger Hearthstone players than him. So, and it is now up to Surrender and Hoi for the rest of this series. So SKT's fate rests on very good shoulders as we jump into game number 2.
So we can already see Elven Minstrel in the opening hand for Surrender, and in a race, you definitely want to be keeping as much cycle as possible as the Quest Rogue, and same thing for the OTK Paladin. Don't need to be bothered about keeping your control tools. Crystology already in the hand as well, so both players with some good cycle options.
Having both Glacial Shards in a lot of matchups would be incredible for Surrender here. And it's not bad, but really he needs more resource generation. He wants preparations to go with the Minstrels and just ways to speed up his quest completion rather than ways to stall.
Right. I like that you mentioned that it's not bad, and I think it's not bad simply by virtue of it being a pair of cards. Sorry, a pair of minions.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd very much rather that there are things like Novice Engineers, but in this case where Surrender knows that he won't have the type of inevitability that Quest Rogue sometimes has, where you can finish the quest with your high value minions if you have all the time in the world. He doesn't have all the time in the world here. So just having any pair of minions, I think, is a welcome sight. If the Elven Minstrel picks up some Brewmasters, Surrender could get the quest done soon. Over on Lee's side, he's got quite a lot of card draw himself. He's got the double Novices, he's got Pyro and Acolyte, so it is going to be very much a game of just drawing for the next few turns. Not too much minion interaction.
Now, this is kind of interesting, though. Lee picks up Consecration and doesn't have another way of dealing with this Elven Minstrel. So he has to actually ask himself, do I need to deal with this? Is there a punish for it staying alive? Am I afraid of this Minstrel being shadow-stepped? The downside if he does clear it is that he then can't clear anything else.
Yeah. It is a good question. I think that generally against Quest Rogue, you're not too concerned about them bouncing a Minstrel because it is so expensive. And more than I think losing a board clear option in the Consecration, I think Leo was concerned to lose a turn of efficient card draw. And considering whether to play out simply the second Engineer or the Kangor, I think Kangor would be specifically respecting Fan of Knives.
And it gets played anyway. And Surrender's hand, okay, he's got 2 pairs. He has the Shards, he has the Boars. He has 1 Novice Engineer, but he can't exactly risk throwing that down because he needs more value than just the 1. It's a weird hand for Surrender. It doesn't look horrible, but it's sort of not doing what he wants it to do.
Yeah, it is pretty bad, I would say. The Engineer has to pick up more card draw or bounce effects sooner rather than later. He's got double Brewmaster, double Shadow Step, and the other Vanish still. So a lot of good draws for Surrender. not that the Vanish is particularly good, but he just wants anything that can help him advance towards quest completion.
I mean, if he's really desperate, is this ever like Novice Engineer prep Vanish here? He gets the Minstrel back. He gets more draws.
Well, I'm kind of liking double. Play one of the pairs and then prep Vanish, because then then you get them both back, and you're essentially at 4 of the quest completion. You also get the Minstrel back. You force your opponent to replay Acolyte, which is really slow.
You're right. That's much better. Yeah, the shards or the boars rather than Novice Engineer. I like the shards a lot more.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Just because I don't think the 2 damage that the boars will deal immediately is going to help very much at all. And you're also concealing the information from your opponent that later on you'll have 8 burst from hand already. Prep was actually a really strong draw there for Surrender. It allowed him to take that dead Vanish in his hand and turn it into 2 quest procs, basically.
The dead hand in general. A second Novice Engineer gets drawn as well. And at this point, Surrender can just start playing.
What is it? Okay, sorry. I saw a reaction from Surrender and I thought it was Shirvala. But okay, yeah. Nothing too crazy yet.
Lee generally seems very willing to just go ahead and play a Holy Wrath. Like, he doesn't feel any need to conserve them. And specifically against Quest Rogue, I guess there is no real reason to conserve them. If he's got Uther down, then Uther weapon is 5 damage and the Holy Wrath is the other 25. That's usually just lethal.
Yeah, I think that against Quest Rogue, you can't very well rely on dealing the OTK over 2 turns.
Yeah.
Because they have things like Vicious Scalehide. They have Valera to get stealth. So I like that RNG Leo is willing to use the first Holy Wrath this cycle. Surrender, still with the 2 draws, hasn't picked up a last bounce effect for the Glacial Shards, which is a little unlucky.
It's definitely unlucky. So he slams down both Novice Engineers here and still doesn't get his last bounce. Obviously, he can play Minstrel next turn, so he's still not completely dry of resources. He actually has 2 Minstrels that he's able to play. But Lee is getting closer and closer to his very own win condition.
Yeah, the deck looks really thin from his side. That's the strength of early Christologies and Novices. He now has the option of using something like Pyro Consecrate for a full clear, but I'm sure he's also concerned about just getting the draw cycle done faster. He knows that if he leaves Novices up, that allows Surrender to possibly bounce them and get closer towards quest completion. But if you can bounce a Novice, that means he could bounce a Glacial Shard anyway and complete the quest that way.
Surrender's draws. He's got so many pairs now.
Yeah.
Wax Elemental to go with the first one.
I think it's close to guaranteed that he gets a Brewmaster off of a Minstrel. Okay, not guaranteed, but probably more likely than not, right? Out of all the minions he's drawn.
Definitely.
So I wouldn't mind him just playing out one Glacial Shard here.
Yep, okay.
And then going for Minstrel?
He's gone for it. He gets Sonya and Ziliax.
What? Did he not put Brewmasters in the deck? No, of course he did.
I mean, this is unheard of. Doesn't even have the mana to play the Sonya to get more Novice Engineers or anything. It's, wow.
Okay, 2 Brewmasters or Zola would have been good there. That's... Well, it seems like he's gonna have to dump a minion here. Of course, he doesn't need all of these to get the job done.
Now Lee picks up his second Prismatic Lens. He has all of the card draw he could possibly want. Still hasn't drawn Uther. And still hasn't drawn Shivala, but that's okay.
We see that if Leo leaves up the Glacial Shard, I highly doubt he will. Surrender will be able to finish his quest by virtue of Sonya.
Nope. Consecration comes down.
Yeah. But Surrender won't be able to play the quest on that same turn, even if the Glacial Shard survived.
Okay. So,
jeez. Well,
Surrender could go. In fact, yes, Surrender could go Sonya, Stone Tusk Boar, and hit that Acolyte 3 times.
And he can mill.
He doesn't know this, but he can mill Shivala.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, the safer play by far is to just go Glacial Shard, Vanish, Glacial Shard, right? Make sure you get your quest.
I mean, he's
and
hovering
be
over
done
Sonya.
with it. Mm-hmm.
If he knew what we knew, then he would definitely go for this play.
Yes. And I think it's smart even not knowing the odds because even not knowing the hand, but knowing the odds, because even if he gets his quest done next turn, he's still so far from being able to kill RNG Leo because he only has 3 chargers in hand. Yeah. This is honestly spoilers because I'm behind you, Falk, but I'm glad that you're keeping up with chat.
I'm trying to keep you up to date. The first draw was Shivala the Tiger. The first draw. It wasn't milled, so it's in Lee's hand.
Oh no! Disaster!
Zola was burned, but that doesn't matter. And Flash Heal was burned. And a timeout. Okay, none of that matters. Lee got very lucky there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he just needs to take a turn to cheapen Shivala. And do you see a way out for Surrender here, Fal?
He has to be very fast, and I don't think it's possible to kill Lee quite as quickly as he needs to. The way out was the Acolyte play. Of course, as far as he knows now, that Shivala was already in the deck. He doesn't know how close he just got to winning the game.
Yeah. And that means that RNG will be going up to a 2-0 lead over the next 2 turns. Oh, sorry, next turn already. And Leo also makes sure to keep his board clear as well, so to prevent any type of vicious scale hide healing play. Surrender's only out here was Valera, and it is not in hand.
Alright, finally quest complete, but poor Surrender. It's just, his hand hasn't quite come together in time. It has now, but he's sort of looking dead now.
Yeah.
Against an aggro deck, his hand would have been amazing.
Really, really would have been. And that puts SKT at an 0-2 deficit. And we were already thinking that Quest Rogue wasn't necessarily the best counter pick to this deck, but it is what they chose, so what options do they have now?
Lee needs to clear the board right now, because if he doesn't, Surrender can go deckhand, attack 4 times, play Vanish, and then replay the boards in the deckhand and win the game.
Or he can just time out, right?
He can just time out, that's true. I was going to say he has to Shrink Ray plus Consecration, but timeout works well as well.
There's so many answers, right? It is 1 card left in deck, I think. I did see a little number 1 there in the middle of the Korean characters.
If he goes with Uther here, though, he just dies. So I'm not sure why he would do that.
I can't see any reason for it.
He could also go... Oh, it's okay. I was going to say he could go Uther, Shrivala. Oh, no, he doesn't want to do that.
what he's scared of is the Ziliax gaining surrender more health than just 4 next turn.
Yep.
But Ziliax, even if it were bounced, is only a rush minion, so I don't think Leo has that much to worry about at all. He is still just going to go for the very safest play.
Yep, this allows him to time out next turn and survive again, and also Ziliax is just a 1/1 now, so it's not going to be healing surrender for much at all.
Mm-hmm.
The balls are gone. That's good for Lee.
Yeah. Leo was, I think, only thinking about what he would do if Valera came down that turn. In which case, saving timeout makes a lot of sense because timeout is essentially a free pass for 1 turn.
So, surrender now needs to deal as much damage as quickly as possible. He could go deckhand, panda back the deckhand, play the deckhand again, and then vanish, which will set him up to deal damage again next turn.
Wait, is Lee not at 1 card left? Is he not? I think he is, right? Or...
I missed the little dialogue thing if he is, but he might be.
Yeah. I mean, nothing matters if he is at 1. That means surrender has to end the game this turn, which means he goes for minstrel instead, looking for additional damage.
Right. Yep, you're right. That was the last card, so this is it. For the 2nd game in a row, Lee manages to get the Holy Wrath lethal. And surrender, he played that well. The cards just were not lined up in the correct order for him.
I mean, he played as best as he could, but that is the power of this Paladin deck. And it is very indicative of what the meta of Hearthstone right now looks like. It's very combo-oriented. It's very much a race. And we've seen clean play from Lee throughout the entire series. So now it's up to Hoy to try and 3-0 sweep RNG if he wants to take this series for SKT.
Right, Gia, I've just paused the stream's clean feed for 10 seconds, so hopefully we're now watching it at the same time as you are.
Oh, thanks, Val. But I wonder if that is enough. Well, I really hope the 10-second estimate will be...
Well, let's try and... Tell me when it changes to a different image, and then we'll be able to...
Okay, right now it's the 3 casters.
Yep.
That's not going to affect what shows up on the stream, right? They will also be delayed 10 seconds.
Yeah, they were also... They just had to watch the paused screen for 10 seconds.
All
which
right.
I'm sure they didn't mind,
really
because now we can all watch it together, hopefully, at the same time. Looks like Hoy's taking a quick bathroom break. Yeah,
I can see him walking out now. It means that I have dragged everybody down to my level of Philippine internet. I'm sorry, guys. But this is the struggle I have to deal with daily.
Well, it's better that at least the 2 of us are watching at the same time, and better that you're able to cast with the knowledge that the whole of Twitch chat has and not be 5 seconds behind.
Right.
I think everyone in Twitch chat will agree with that as well.
That's very considerate. Thank you, everyone. And I'm just going to assume that you spoke on their behalf.
Yes.
And now, from SKT's perspective, I already think that Quest Rogue is not necessarily favored against Tribala Paladin and have to take a bit of research and see if that's actually true on HS Replay. But if it is indeed unfavored and they already had to lean on that deck to take that matchup, that means they'll have an even worse choice going into their 3rd try against this deck.
Now, you suggested that Odd Paladin maybe was the pick last time for SKT. Do you think that's what Hoy's going to go with this time?
Looking at the remaining decks, I think it is. Definitely not the mage. It's an odd control mage. What else did they have left? Their hunter was banned, druid was banned, Q block was banned, APM priest was banned. So they have their even shaman or just the odd paladin remaining, I think. Or there's one deck that I'm missing. Or the mage, yeah, sorry.
Yes,
because they've already lost with Quest Warrior and they've lost with Quest Rogue. So they only have Control Mage, Odd Paladin, or Even Shaman. And I just don't have very much faith in Even Shaman right now. I've honestly not been able to test it much after the Flame Tongue nerf, but I don't see how it could be more effective at doing what it wants to do in the beatdown game plan than Odd Paladin. So I would lean towards Odd Paladin in this situation.
Odd Paladin is one of those decks that seems to be able to completely sweep, doesn't it? Like, it has bad matchups, yes, but it can win those bad matchups better than most other decks can. So that is also the deck that I would expect to see Hoi Q up against Lee. Because he can't just think about this one matchup now. He has to think about which of my... Maybe he even goes for a deck that's slightly worse in this one matchup. Because he has to think which of my decks is most likely to be able to beat 3 of my opponent's decks in a row.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. I mean, it's a little bit of a trip up to see that in LHS, you still have 3 options after having lost twice. And that confused me a little bit, but you're right. So Odd Paladin, both in this immediate matchup and for the long run, just seems like the strongest choice. And I wonder if that thinking was also part of the influence of why Surrender started off with Quest Rogue last match, whereas I don't necessarily think it's that good against Holy Wrath Paladin. Over on HS Replay, it does say that Odd Paladin is a 60% favorite against Holy Wrath, so
okay.
Would make sense to go with that.
I mean, they've got a lot of thinking to do because they have to look at the entire of the lineup, as we were saying, and work out which of their decks is most likely to beat everything. But we now see it is going to be the Paladin mirror. I hope that just popped up for you as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was on a different screen because of HS Replay. But yes, I do see that right now.
Odd
he just blinked.
Yeah, he blinked and missed it. Odd Paladin up against Holy Wrath Paladin. And then if he wins this, he has to beat 2 of Shaman, Warrior, Warlock, and Mage in a row after this.
Oh my goodness.
It's a tough journey ahead.
Even just looking at Warrior versus Odd Paladin, that already looks like a yikes. But,
yeah.
You know, if you're Hoi, you only got to be looking at what's immediately in front of you right now. Worry about the long run later.
Yep. I don't believe tiebreakers are going to factor into this in any way. It's just double elimination.
Yeah.
For the next few days, so...
It's double elimination within 2 different groups, right?
That's right, yeah. Did it just go back to the casters?
It went to the...
Great.
Yes,
great.
it did.
Okay. We're in sync, Gina. We're in sync.
Feels good, man.
But I guess that means game number 3 is going to start very shortly. Can Hoi get the reverse sweep with his Odd Paladin? It looks tough, but it is possible.
Not sure why, but I can't find much data on Quest Rogue on HS Replay. I guess it's just not seen so much play on ladder lately. So I couldn't say for sure whether it was a favorite matchup a while ago. But that's all in the past now. It's Odd Paladin versus Holy Wrath. And Holy Wrath Paladin has the Wild Pyro, which is the MVP card in this matchup.
Yep. Not quite as good alongside Consecration... Sorry, alongside Quality as it used to be, obviously. That's now a 6-mana combo, which is a significant nerf.
Mm-hmm. And as for Hoi, I think that he'll want to be holding on to at least 1 threat in hand. I don't know if it's enough to make him keep the Frostwolf Warlord, but because there are 2 Pyromancers, I don't think that he wants to just be going for all of the cheap cards, and it's actually a full keep from Hoi. I really like that because Firefly or Lost in the Jungle plus the Blessing of Might is one of the best ways to deal with control decks early on.
Yep. Very good keep indeed. And I should imagine that's what he's going to be aiming for as quickly as possible, a buffed up Firefly. The advantage to Frostwolf Warlord now in this matchup is that Lee only runs 1 copy of Equality and 1 copy of Shrink Ray. And I believe they are his only cards that can remove the big minions.
Ah, okay. So that Warlord is going to be one of the biggest problems for the Holy Wrath Paladin, and it really informs Hoy's decision to keep it.
Okay, so Hoy hasn't gone with the Firefly. He's gone with the board as wide as possible. And the reason for that is that even with Pyromancer, Lee can't clear this board until he's on 4 mana. There's no 1 mana spell in the deck.
Ah, you're right.
So Pyro,
The
Flash
cheapest
of
spell is
Heal,
Christology.
Christology,
Yeah.
Flash of Light, and Potion of Heroism are the 2 mana spells.
And so Hoy is going to take this precious time before turn 4 from RNG Leo to pile on as much damage as possible. He does, of course, still take the trade into the Novice Engineer to protect the Divine Shield on his Argent Squire. And God, how I've missed minions going face in Hearthstone.
To be fair, we see a fair amount of it in Mid-Range Hunter.
Sure.
Pavel was playing a very face-heavy game yesterday in another tournament.
Good on Pavel. The meta has become one that is not easy for casters in the sense that games go on so much longer than they did on average back in the day. And now Hoy has to be aware that Pyro plus a spell is now available for RNG Leo, but it'll only deal 1 damage across the board, so he's happy to play another 2 health minion alongside that Argent Squire.
That Argent Squire is going to just keep wailing on the face next turn. Meanwhile, Lee does get to draw through some of his deck. That's great. Crystal Smith Kangor obviously could be very helpful. That's a big old comeback card later on if Lee can get a Flash Heal or something to combo with it.
And while that looks like it was a sad use of a Pyro, it at least makes it so that if Liu were to draw Consecration on the next turn, it would be able to clean up most of the things that come onto the board this turn.
Yep. Man, that Argent Squire. Oh, he gets the Consecration.
Oh, that... I should really stop calling cards. That is the best draw for RNG Leo by far. And now Hoy's hand looks so dead. Well, okay, not dead, but like very suboptimal, no matter what he plays.
It did until he drew that Stonehill Defender. Because now suddenly, Hero Power Stonehill Defender looks viable-ish this turn. If he can get a Tarim, obviously that's amazing. Or a Tyrion, or really any powerful minion. And then if stuff sticks to the board this turn, then Fungalmancer becomes insane. Frostwolf Warlord becomes insane.
So I'm liking just the cheapest minion here, because Hoy's hand is full of 5-drops. I don't think he necessarily wants Hungry Eden. I just don't know if it's better to take the thing that gains 1 attack in the middle, or just the Stubborn Gastropod. Seeing as Shirvallah Paladin doesn't run things like Spike Ridge Steed or big taunt walls, I don't see much of a use for the Poisonous. And that's why I think Hoy has taken just the 1/4.
Just the most powerful cheap minion. Makes sense. But yeah, Lee can't deal with this board, so Fungalmancer's going to get out of control. Or Frostwolf Warlord, whichever card Hoy picks. Oh, look at those cards drawn back to back there. Quality Pyromancer.
Oh my gosh.
And Shrinkray. He actually can't play a quality Pyromancer until turn 9. That's pretty funny. He can go.
But he can Pyro Shrinkray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
Basically. And so Hoy has to be aware that that is now a possibility. But I can't imagine him holding back on all of these big 5-drop plays. Just not sure if it's better to go Fungal or Warlord.
It's difficult because he's got 2 Warlords, so they seem more expendable. But Fungalmancer does seem better here because it's pushing immediate damage.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 9 damage to the face this turn if he goes Fungalmancer.
Yeah, I like that. And he should know also that if RNG Leo goes for Pyro Shrinkray, that will clear off Lee's own board and also make it his entire turn, basically. So Hoy has that next turn of development to himself.
No healing.
Fortunately, I think he got the taunt maul. So Leo can go for a preemptive timeout if he so chooses, and then try to get something else into play, so that he can try to bait Hoy into developing more things next turn.
Right. I mean, he could go for the board clear, but then Leroy just kills him. So the more I look at this,
I don't think he's getting around Leroy either way, right?
Oh, sure. Is there a way that he can... Is there a way that he can get around Leroy? Like, if he times out this turn, is there a way he can clear the board and heal next turn? Not quite, is there?
No, he's already used the other Pyro, so I don't see a way. Because he would essentially only have gained himself another 1 mana. He needs an additional 2 mana from this turn to be able to heal.
Yeah.
So if he draws the second timeout next turn, that could be something that helps.
What about yeah, I mean, he could draw that. He could draw Shivala. I'm not sure how cheap Shivala is now, but maybe that gets him back in the game. If he can time out next turn and then Shivala the turn after.
Yeah, I think that's... If Shivala is, let's say it's 8 mana next turn, just enough to play it, I think he's still dead, if that's his only thing to do. He doesn't have things... if it's at 6 and he can play Kangor alongside it, that could be another turn of survival. But outside of that, I think it needs to be exactly the next timeout. We're talking as if Hoy has Leroy in hand, though, which he doesn't. So he does have 2 damage from the Taunt Maul. So if he continues to only draw minions and not burst damage, that will give Lee another turn to survive beyond his board clear turn.
Okay.
And this has to be a board clear turn.
Wait. Pyromancer Shrink Ray, and then...
Oh!
The, yeah.
Yeah. The Argent Protector, right. Sorry, Righteous.
Righteous Protector, that's it. I was going to say Argent Protector and then realized, wait, that's not even the card. Yes, the Righteous Protector actually does protect Lee from Leroy Jenkins this turn.
Yeah. Ooh, Vine Cleaver is a strong pickup, though.
Never thought that this was the card that he was waiting for. But it worked out perfectly. I mean, he doesn't know there's no Leroy there anyway, so as it happens, he was surviving this turn regardless. It's
possible that the Righteous actually buys him an additional turn, though, in this situation where Hoy has to sink damage into it over 2 turns.
Right. Well, now what I'm looking at is how Lee sort of has a more free turn next turn because Hoy's board isn't going to be completely full. And if Lee does now draw Shivala, we may even be able to see something like Crystal Smith Kangor Shivala to essentially put Lee back at full health again.
Right, and that looks like it would be GG.
Any healing card here will be amazing with Kangor.
Okay, so Hoy decides to conceal the information of the Vine Cleaver, and this makes it so that he has the most burst from hand, which is Vine Cleaver plus Blessing of Might. Potion of Heroism.
Okay. If this whiffs, he may need to Holy Wrath. No, he got Shivala. Okay. Yeah. That's what he's looking for.
Yes, so that, I think, might be the game with Kangor. Okay.
Yep. Kangor.
Our Paladin can come back, but he also has Zola. Everything fits.
Just play it all out. Heal up for 14 this turn.
Oh my goodness.
The Shivala survives, which means to kill it, Hoy needs to hit it again several more times, and it's been put back in the hand. This, like you said, this is looking like GG now.
I mean, even if the healing weren't GG, RNG Leo also just sticks us Travala. He has Holy
Yeah.
Wrath and Baleful Banker. He could take the one and whatever how many cards are left and just end the game on the spot. But I think Koi knows it's over.
I was going to suggest last turn that if the cantrip didn't draw Shrivala, then Lee's next play probably would have been Holy Wrath to try and get Shrivala from that. Just because this is what matters now. The combo is irrelevant. He has the board. He has a bigger board than Hoi can possibly deal with.
You're absolutely right. And I think that draw of the Righteous Protector was actually so huge as well.
Yeah.
Because it kind of forced Hoi to play minions to make sure that he could try to 2-turn lethal RNG Leo. Whereas, oh my god, the BF.
Well, this is the strategy, isn't it now? It's just shuffle as many Shrivalas into the deck as possible and win with them.
I know. I mean, I was just going to say though, if there was no minion at the end of that board clear turn, Hoi could have simply just played the Taunt Maul, dealt 2 damage, not summoned any minions. Then RNG Leo wouldn't have had a way to heal that turn. Then Hoi could have ended it with Vine Cleaver. But my goodness, that is the first set. 3-0 sweep by RNG Lee. And SKT is now down to the losers bracket of their group.